So we're going to get right into this and start with the National Pork Board. We'll be with them for about the next half hour. They have three speakers who you met in their presentation. If you could pull them up, please. Tara Ann Dugan is their Director of Consumer and Marketplace Insights. Charlotte Romerine is a registered dietitian and a South Dakota pig farmer. A lot of you might have met her last year. She was in St. Louis with us at Shopping for Health 2019. And Neil Sani, who is the NPB's National Channel Marketing and Innovation Manager. So welcome. And I'm going to just get started with the questions we've received so far. Again, if you have additional questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box or in the chat room, and we'll go from there. All right, this first question is for Charlotte. Charlotte, do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, sounds great. The question is, what type of feed is given to your pigs, and is there any such thing as free-range or organic pork products?
So our pigs we raise corn and soybeans right in our area, and so our pigs are fed our corn and soybeans that are grown right around this area. That's the main portion of their diet. So the carbohydrate source and the protein source for us as dietitians. And I think it's interesting as a dietitian to know that there are swine nutritionists also who make we call them a ration, or the composition of the feed, and they're different feeds for different ages as they grow. So that's interesting. And as I said, it's for each age of growth, just like we don't feed an infant the same thing as we feed an adult. So that's the same thing in pigs. There are pig farmers that raise pigs organically, and so yes, they would use organic feed to feed their animals. Probably the same types of rations, corn and soybeans, and vitamins and minerals, and so forth. The actual term for pigs, free range usually refers to cattle. So the actual term for pigs would be pasture raised, and there are some pig farmers that are raising pigs in the pasture, meaning that they're outdoors most of the time. And so if there's a consumer need or a consumer desire for different types of ways of raising pigs, there are people that are doing it. And the ultimate for all of those is good pig care, and that can be accomplished no matter which way they are raised. And so I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Again, any follow-up to any of this, please just put it in the chat box or in the Q&A, and we can certainly go back to Charlotte and she can elaborate if any of that was not clear. I don't remember who asked that question, but that was a good one. And I guess, Charlotte, this would be for you as well. I'll take this as a bit of a follow-up.
Okay.
In relation to pigs and antibiotics, who enforces the withdrawal time before animals enter the food supply? Is this solely off the honor system? Maybe if you could go back a little bit and just tell us again what this withdrawal time is. And then again, of course, the question is who is actually enforcing that?
Okay. Well, withdrawal time is a set aside time that once you stop feeding an animal a certain medication, is a withdrawal time, or a time between the last time they got the medication and when the first day that animal could be going to the processing plant. So for certain drugs, there are these withdrawal times that are set aside. And the agency that does the research to determine those withdrawal times is the FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine. So all of those things are regulated, researched, regulated, and set up by our government. And so some safeguards that are in place. One is that the pig farmers that are selling their pigs to the major processing plants have taken the PQA Plus training, which provides them training in all the information about withdrawal times and so forth. So they have the education, and they need that education in order to sell to many of the companies, most of the companies actually, and there are over 60,000 pig farmers that have that PQA plus training. So, which PQA stands for Pork Quality Assurance. And so that training is in place. So safeguards are, first, that the withdrawal times are set up by research from the FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine. Second safeguard is the fact that pig farmers have education in what to do with those medications. And then when it comes to antibiotics that are medically important, in other words, they are a medication, an antibiotic medication that crosses over and is used in human medicine in addition to animal medicine. So if it's an antibiotic that's used in both, when it is provided in feed and water, they have to have a veterinary feed directive. In other words, that's like a prescription. So if you think about it, the veterinarian is saying, yes, you can use this. This is when you can use it. This is how much. And then that is all done by the feed mill. Most pig farmers have their feed mixed at a feed mill. They aren't doing it privately. Either way, there is a record of that medication being put into that feed, and that is maintained for 2 years, and it has to have the veterinary feed directive or the prescription with it, or else it will not be provided to that pig farmer. So the medications in feed and water are regulated that way. They have to have a prescription. And I asked my husband about this because this was a question that came in before, and you know, so I talked in the video about the veterinary client patient relationship. And so, you know, he may call and the veterinarian would stop. They make sure they know how old the pigs are, how much they weigh, and all that kind of thing. And at times they will say, nope, sorry, can't do that, you know, and they will change to a different medication or not be able to give the medication because they know how close they are to being marketed. So, which are sold to the processing plant. So the veterinarian is in charge of that. Then the other thing that is in place is that there is random check from the Food Safety and Inspection Service. And that, so that the animals that are in the processing plant are randomly inspected. It's not the same as milk where every single gallon of milk is tested for antibiotics, but the pigs are randomly, the meat is randomly tested. And just to know that there's a seriousness to if there was a violation on the part of the farmer. For example, if that happened to us, you know, if that somehow there was a management mistake, we may not be able to sell to Smithfield, which is the plant that we have here. And that may mean that we would no longer be able to get pigs, and that would have severe financial problems for us. So it's just not something that we would ever want to make a mistake in. So, you know, education, regulation from the Center for Veterinary Medicine, and then the inspection service and the prescriptions from the veterinarian. Those are all safeguards to help, you know, and the Food Safety and Inspection Service has very, very few, every year has very few incidences in the swine industry. And we actually have some research that shows that pig farmers are very responsible when it comes to that.
Very good. Thank you. This next question is for Neil. Neil, you mentioned in the presentation the best color of raw pork was the one in the middle of the picture that was shown, not too light and not too dark. This person is asking what the lighter and darker colors indicate, and can you please explain that a little more?
Sure. Yeah. So what you're looking at is you're looking at the pH. So the pH is what determines pork quality. It also is partly with the myoglobin, the amount that's in the muscle. So if you're getting closer towards the shoulder meat, you're going to find darker color in the muscle because it's working more. But really, it's about the pH. So if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, you're looking at a lower pH. If you're on the darker, you're looking at a higher pH. And so the pH is really determined throughout the life cycle of the animal, diet, and really it's once it goes into the cooler and glycolysis takes place. So getting the sugar that's remaining in the muscle to not convert to lactic acid. And that's where you want to get it chilled down as soon as possible once it goes into the processor so that it can go in and out of rigor mortis as soon as possible. And that's what is going to determine the color. And the color is what determines the amount of moisture that's going to be retained in that meat. So anything that's on the lighter end of the spectrum is probably going to lose more of the water holding capacity that's left in the muscle. So you want to look for something that's in the middle that's going to have optimal pH. Obviously, we can't put a pH meter on a piece of meat, so color is the best indicator that we have. So you want to find something that what we call RFN, so red, firm, and non-exudative, so it's not leaking that juice that's left in the muscle. So the darker red in the middle is really optimal pH when it comes to pork.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Next question. I'm not sure if this is for Tara Ann or for you, but whoever can address this. In the nutrition with pork research on greater rate of growth in infants, are there specific recommendations for cuts, any specific recipes or handouts to share with new moms dealing with infants consuming pork?
Hey, Charlotte, we might toss that question to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. The research has been done. I don't believe that we have any recipes, so to speak, and I believe the research was done with, I would have to look again at what cuts were used, but it was pureed meat for complementary foods. So it was introduced at 6 months to a year of age. So in the research, and so I'm not sure exactly which cuts they use. I would have to look it up in the research. I can't remember at this time, but as far as recipes, no. But I've seen from my own grandchildren that it works out really well. And then when they're able to, chew a little bit, then the ground meat is great, or, small bite-sized little chopped up pieces. And so at least I can speak from my grandchildren's point of view, is they're both eating it very well. So, or they both did.
And loving it,
So,
right?
Yes, that's very certain.
Very good. All right, moving along, and again, I'm not sure who this is best addressed to, but would one of our speakers just please take this one. It's mentioned that less carbon, water, and land is being used with pig farming now. Why is this, or what has been done to cause this effect? Is some of this related to efficiency in finishing pork off more quickly when in the finishing barn?
You guys want me to take that again too?
No one better to do it, Charlotte.
Okay. There are basically three main reasons why that has happened and those are pig care. We are even better, and the move to a lot of pig raising indoors has been a benefit to their growth because of this reason. If you think about it, even us, when we're outside in very, very cold weather, we need more energy to run our bodies. Same thing if it's very hot. So under stressful conditions, we need more calories, right? Well, pigs are no different than that. They also require more calories in those stressful conditions. So what we have done when we've moved them indoors is we've taken away some of the stressful condition of the weather. We have a more consistent temperature. They are well cared for. In the summer, they have misters that mist them so that they are very comfortable. In the winter, of course, we have heaters that keep them warm. And I know because I've raised pigs in various ways my whole life, and on our farm, and we used to raise them outdoors, some of the time. And I can remember just fighting to just even, keep them going and have enough bedding and have enough water and feed and all that kind of stuff. So that is one of the reasons is we're doing a better job at pig care. Another reason is nutrition. Just like we have made discoveries in human nutrition, they've made discoveries in swine nutrition, and they're doing a better job at providing nutrition during the various stages of growth. And so, and then the other thing is genetics. They're raising genetics just much like you might, people that are breeding dogs for certain characteristics. They are using genetics to get certain characteristics in the pigs that we have so that they grow well, efficiently in the conditions that they're in. And so those are the reasons that it has happened. And it's all about good practices on the behalf of the farmer. They're doing a better job. And so those are the main reasons.
Okay. Very good. All right. I'm going to move on. I believe this question is for Tara Ann, but again, anyone please jump in. It came in as a nice question. It's a little bit long, but I'm going to read through most of it. What are some innovative ways to communicate with shoppers? In our stores, we can't do anything in person, including sampling, tours, etc. So we've moved to focus on recipe development, blog content, social media, and virtual counseling and presentations. This is great, but we're always looking for more ways to pitch in. I can see working with online shopping. One of the challenges we have is making changes to the web platform because we don't have access or authority to make changes there. So can you help us brainstorm? What are some better ways to work with shoppers?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Nancy. There are a lot of different things that everyone is kind of thinking about in the industry right now. And as I always like to say, we look at, for example, the food service industry and oftentimes leverage it in retail for inspiration. So thinking about some of the touchless ways to interact, how are we communicating with consumers so that they can be comfortable with the food that they're eating, especially since they're making so many more meals at home. So continuing to tap into those social media platforms and communicating that way. Some of the other things that have been done historically that will probably start to make a transition is around things like kiosks and whatnot. So being able to communicate with consumers in a way that they are having printouts in store, for sake of example, just to be able to have some of that information accessible to them. Other things, of course, because folks are going into the store, albeit they're not making as frequent trips and they're really trying to limit the amount of time in the store, making sure that those high traffic areas are areas like the meat department, are areas that provide information for how to get food on the table, thinking about things like cross-merchandising or co-promoting so that folks can be thinking about meals and recipes in their entirety. And then, of course, to the point around online shopping, we've seen a lot of growth in online shopping. And while the majority of it is around a lot of those personal care and health and beauty items, we've certainly seen that there's been a ton of growth within food that I'm sure that our retail partners can attest to. So how can we provide more information on product pages, for example, that since there is an opportunity there where there are descriptions that are provided, having a little bit more information that speaks specifically to the specific benefits, health benefits of each of those particular products. Those are just a couple of ideas. I know we've got Kara on the line who is also on our team, and Kara may have some additional thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say this is where I think we open up the conversation, and what I was going to get into later on the panel is having been in retail most recently and understanding some of the challenges and opportunities as well as how your programs have changed. I think that's what I'm here to do, is help support you and let you know that, I'm here, I'm a partner, I want to partner with you guys, understand your needs. And if whoever submitted this question, you've got my contact information on the slide. Drop me an email. Let's chat. Let's talk about your challenges, your opportunities. And I love to brainstorm. I love coming up with creative solutions. So this is an open door to reach out and let's think of something great together. Thanks, Tara.
Very good. Angela Larson, I believe, has a live question. Can we find Angela? Or you can just put it in the chat box and I can read it.
Hi, I'm sorry, that was an accident.
Oh, okay, so no question.
No question.
That's good. All right, I'm going to move on here. This may be back to Charlotte, but again, I'm not sure. The presentation said that no hormones are used in pork. Are there hormones used in sows to regulate menstrual cycles to facilitate more efficient breeding, such as what is done with cows and in the beef industry, to keep them on a regular cycle or to get the whole herd on the same cycle?
Well, that was I'm glad I had that question ahead of time so I could do the research. So when they are talking about the federal regulations, it is specific to growth hormones. I'm not certain why that's not part of the statement, you know, that they have to put on the label that says the federal government prohibits the use of hormones. So it is specific to that. And there are some hormones that are used some in regulation of estrus or the cycle, and it can be used either to induce it or to control it or stop it. These are used in the female pigs that are going to be specifically for genetics and for their ability to, you know, to raise pigs. So that there are withdrawal times for one of them. They are medications that again are regulated by the FDA, Center for Veterinary Medicine. But as far as growth hormones, there aren't any used, and it's very limited, if any, that's used in the industry of those other medications, and they are not used safely and not generally given at any time close to if the time that female that is used to raise piglets would be entering the market at all anyway. So it's safe use once again, but the growth hormone is the issue when it talks about, and those are not used in the for pigs at all. Interestingly enough, they regulate the cycle by weaning, because after they wean the pigs, then the cycle starts up again, just like it does in females. And then another thing they help induce the cycle is parading around a male pig. So apparently the pheromones induce the cycle. So that would be an interesting thing to see happen, but that's what happens.
Okay, thank you. We had a question come in the live chat box, so the speakers may be able to see this, but I'll go ahead and read it so everyone can hear it. This person says she has customers tell her that they've moved away from pork since Smithfield was bought out by China. Customers are expressing concern about what the pigs are being fed and again about safe handling of the meat, but mostly it being raised in China. Has this been a concern you've heard, and if so, how does the industry respond to this?
So, especially since the beginning of COVID, I'll take this, Nancy.
Okay, great.
Especially since the beginning of COVID, we've been tracking against consumer concerns, and you all know that there's a lot of information that's available out there, not only for us industry folks, regardless of if you are with an organization or a retailer or even on the packer side, but also for consumers, of course. And one of the things that we've been looking at is, you know, how much of a concern is that particular concern? And there certainly is awareness of industry issues. I think there's another question around industry issues that we may be talking about in a little bit. But when it comes to things in the grand scheme of things, consumers still display a pretty significantly high level of confidence in the industry, depending on which measure we're looking at, whether it be favorability or purchase intent. We see that top two box score tends to be upwards of 75% or more who say that they would be purchasing in the future or are favorable towards the industry. So while there is certainly, when there are new media stories that exist that are out there that consumers have access to, there's just so much information that folks are taking in, and it may or may not have an impact on them in the short term, but from a long-term perspective, we're continuing to see growth.
Very good. Any other questions coming in? That's what we've had right now. We do have a question that, as you just said, Tara Ann, I think relates to the conversation we'll be having this afternoon on the just the whole industry response to COVID and so forth. And I'm sure we'll be going into that a little bit more. But I want to point out that the National Pork Board provided some handouts. They are posted on the Shopping for Health website under the National Pork Board video. So those are handouts that should be helpful to you to use with your shoppers. And I think you mentioned, Charlotte, recipes are available. Where is that? At the Pork Board website?
Yes, and at we have our recipes on yummly.com. So but you can access it through the pork.org website, and there's a tab for recipes, and then that will lead you to the Yummly site and the pork specific, the National Pork Board recipes on the Yummly site.
Great. I know we always get a lot of questions about that, so that's great. So, well, I thank you all. Again, it was a terrific presentation. I had several comments that were just simply saying thank you for this great information. If we could put that slide up again one more time, there is a contact for everyone. If you do have follow-up questions, again, the video will stay on the Shopping for Health website for quite some time. So if you need to watch it again or get any of that information again, it will be there. And then this is, of course, the more specific National Pork Board information. So feel free to note that down. And again, Tara Ann, Neil, and Charlotte, thank you so much. And to Chris Jones, too, many thanks.